Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grover, and welcome once again to another Rip Roaring Reds. You're joined, as ever, by my co-host, Jace. How you doing, Jace?
Hey, yeah, good evening. Doing okay. Nice Sunday. Forgot about yesterday. Doing good.
Yeah, and you forgetting about yesterday is now going to here to bring it all back to you. If it's your first time joining us, please do give the channel a subscribe. Please do give the video a like. Please do leave a comment down below what you thought of the drab, dross, boring Arsenal versus Everton 0-0 at the Emirates, which takes Arsenal, actually stays Arsenal in third place. Jace has already said that maybe he's calmed down. Maybe he has forgotten. And we're going to bring up all of that scar tissue all over again that we discussed on the car journey home, discussed on the tube at the ground, and now we're going to do it all over again.
What happened yesterday? I don't know. I'm pretty sure I saw Will Smith earlier. He flashed this thing in my eyes. I can't remember anything.
I don't want to know. Right, well, we're going to start, though. We're going to start how we start every single Rip Roaring Reds. We're going to start out with a Rip Roaring review. It's going to be talking about what did you feeling about Arsenal at the moment? What did you feel about that game? What do you feel about the state of our football team at this very moment in time? Going to do a bit of a vibe check. How are you, Jason? What is your Rip Roaring review?
So I was looking at this and I'm saying spend. Like, I know that sounds very irrational because we don't spend in January, but I just look at this there's no way Liverpool can hold this to the end of the year. There's going to be a down period. We've seen today City lose again. It's like, this is not a normal City drop. They have properly dropped. We have to capitalize on it. We have to. There's just no other option. We've been waiting 2.5 years for this. We're now at this point. We have to cash in chips. We have to cash in chips. There's no excuses. I'm just like, this performance yesterday, the last two draws, they're unacceptable. They are unacceptable given all of the hard work that they've put in. They are ruining this for themselves. We'll go on to talk about the performance in more detail, but just as a fan, I'm just like, I'm behind Mikel Arteta, but I can't take it. I can't take it. Just like knowing that this is here and that we can't physically grab it. We should be there. We should be on Liverpool's tail. We should even arguably be top of the league. That's the expectation I have for us right now. And we just need to spend in January and just do whatever it takes to get players in that will help us win the league title. Isaac, 80 million, put it on the table, see if Newcastle bite. Like, I don't care. Like, you know, do you want my ISA? I'll go get my ISA out. I know Eddie's gone, so I don't know. Richard Garlick, do you want some money? Just give me a shout. I don't actually have 80 million, just to be clear. But I'm like, we've got to do something. I'm fed up. I just I'm trying not to be negative. I'm just trying to be I don't know, like.
I said to someone at work, right, Jace, that it's not, I always say it's not negativity or pessimism, it's realism. We're in a real situation here and there are real solutions to real problems. It sounds like you genuinely believe that a striker is the answer to our woes at this current point in time.
We're going to talk about Havertz yesterday. We're going to talk about Jesus when he came on, right? What was the problem yesterday? It was the fact that we couldn't break down. Yes, okay, Everton played that way, you know, basically a brick wall. Didn't want to do anything else, but we still didn't. We did have chances. I went and watched the highlights again just to double check I didn't miss anything when we were in the ground. We still had chances and we didn't put them away. Oh, Arsenal fan rants done. Right, over to you. What's your review?
Woosah, Jace, woosah. Grab those earlobes. My Rip Roaring review is: are we boring? A friend texted me after, a Man United fan, after we beat Man United at the Emirates, and basically said, how do you watch this team week in, week out? It is so boring. How do you enjoy watching it? And at the time, obviously, I was a bit like tongue in cheek. You know, we'd just beaten Man United at the time. So, of course, I'm going to go a bit deep. I enjoy watching this. You know, our football is great. We play some absolutely phenomenal football at times. We're probably one of the best teams in the world out of possession. But then I kind of thought over the last couple of games, Fulham in this one, and I think you said it on the last pod, you said it was boring. You said it was drab. And it has lost some of its spark. It has lost some of its explosivity. It has It's just not the same. And there are sparks there occasionally where we do play the ball around. We do one-touch football. We move the ball really, really quickly. But yesterday was incredibly sideways. Incredible pass between the back, pass to the side, start again, pass this, and it's just repetitive. And it is a bit docile. And my only thinking that it maybe isn't Arsenal that are boring is because I watched half of Man United versus Manchester City today, and it was very, very similar. It was very, very sideways. I think the first 20 minutes for both teams had an XG of nothing. It was a nothing game. It didn't spark into life until the very end. And maybe it's not Arsenal that are boring. Maybe the league has become boring in itself. Maybe the way teams play, the way we set up, the way that teams kind of approach games nowadays is not the way that it used to be. It feels like Pep has been found out from the way that he plays football because he just can't get, into his funk again. And this is one of the greatest coaches in the world of all time. And he still can't break down a Man United team, frankly, are awful. And frankly, have a new manager that really hasn't figured out what his best 11 is yet. This is so I can't tell you if Arsenal. I felt bored yesterday in the ground. I felt bored against Fulham. So we are on occasion can feel boring and are a bit boring. But maybe it's the league as well that is a little bit boring.
So many things in there to dissect. I think, first of all, we're not that boring. Like, just to be clear, we have some boring games. I'll grant you that. But Lisbon, West Ham, Forest, those 3 games we scored 13 goals, like 5-2 West Ham, 5 at Sporting, 3 against, and they were goal fests, and we were playing really well and we were playing great football. What we have is a problem with certain teams where they come to play a certain way against us. It's not news to us. It's been consistent for 2 seasons and we don't unlock a door. And we did create chances. It's not that boring. Man United game, that was tactical. We played that in a tactical way because it's a big team. We do play tactically against big teams. And we annoy rival fans when we play that way. But we get the results because we've not been having... In the last 3 years, we've solved the Big Six problem where Arsenal have the worst performance against the Big Six teams, yada, yada, yada. We don't anymore. We're probably the best, arguably, maybe the second best. So I don't think we're boring. I think that we cannot find solutions to particular problems, and that's been another consistent theme, which is slightly worrying. And I just want us to spend, but I mean, spending it may not answer the problem. We'll talk about that. The other thing, the interesting thing on Pep, just thought I'd chuck this out there. It came to my mind while you were saying it. Do you remember? So if we think about legacy of coaches, right, and the time they started versus where they are now, and when they fade off, coaches do drop off, unless you're Carlo Ancelotti, who just seems to go forever. Mourinho was probably, let's say, there 3 or 4 years before Pep Guardiola, would you agree? He had the Porto team, then he had his Chelsea team, and then Pep Guardiola came around in about, I think it was 06, 07, which is probably in line with Mourinho's last kind of ending stint at Chelsea before he went across to Inter Milan, or end of his first stint at Chelsea. And I just look at this and went, well, in the last 4 years, Mourinho has just dive bombed. Like, he had a bad couple of spells and he's just dive bombed. I think that last Chelsea spell spiraled him. United was awful. Spurs was awful. Maybe the magic is wearing from Pep. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe the magic is wearing from Pep. I'm actually kind of like trying to like do that Star Wars mind trick thing or whatever it is. I don't. But like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I wonder. Like, there's a quote in The Dark Knight that says, "You either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain." And there are certain coaches in the past, like Fergie left, and on a high. You probably couldn't get much of a bigger high. Like, Wenger outstayed his welcome for a lot of fans, and Wenger to a point probably didn't leave when he should have left. And maybe you're right in saying that there are times and places, and like maybe they are rats on a sinking ship. Maybe they know something that we don't. Who knows? But it'd be interesting. I just can't imagine a coach of his elite level, of his stature, of his ability, throwing all of this away. We spoke about this before. We all think he's going to go and get a diamond from somewhere in January that's going to fill that Rodri-shaped hole in their midfield, and it's going to be completely fine again. And they're going to go on an absolute tear, as they always do in the second half of the season. And they'll be there, and that could happen. But I think everyone's kind of expecting them to have turned it around already. 1 win in 11 is pretty cataclysmic by any team's standards. You know, that's Southampton level form. That's not Man City level form. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But it goes back to my Rip Roaring review, right? It's just like, we can't mess this up.
Yeah, and maybe we can. Let's see. A lot of what your points, and I wanted to go. So our first section, I flashed up the card just on the screen for the listeners. Are we coached too far? And I maybe wanted to go into a bit of a tear, and I'd like to hear your opinion on some of the points I'm going to raise, Jace, as I kind of go through it, because it does touch upon a lot of what you've already said, really.
Rant away. I'm assuming there's going to be a rant.
It kind of is. I genuinely feel at the moment that our players are coached to the point of where they are unable to make decisions for themselves inside of our system. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly how to play. And they are not given any ability nor freedom to change that system or change their variety of play in order to approach any game, in any game state. And we are not an attacking team. We are not a counter-attacking team. We do not break on you. Any opportunity we had against Everton, we effectively waited and set our stall back up again to approach the game in the exact same way that we would always approach the game. We would wait for our players to get back into their position. We would play the ball between the centre backs. We would play it to our wing backs. We would play it into Ødegaard to take control of the ball and drive it forward. And you know, there are lots of elements to our play that are unreal. Our out of possession play, it's phenomenal. Our build-up play is out of this world. You know, Reyes playing as a centre back, as an extra man on the field. We have inverting fullbacks and really dynamic wing backs. We have really high press from Ødegaard, from Kai Havertz, sometimes even from Marino. You know, we are dominating a physical team. We're a special team. And I'm not trying to take away from Arsenal whatsoever. But yesterday, as it stands, I just can't see a way in which we value control over every single element of the game. That is what we crave. We starve teams of possession, and I actually feel that we've taken control to the nth degree now. We just want to control games beyond starving teams of all that possession, allowing them to do literally nothing, to the point where the other teams just don't bother anymore. Everton sat there all day yesterday, and they didn't necessarily have our number, but they defended incredibly well. I don't want to take away from them the fact that they came to the Emirates and got a point when a lot of teams maybe wouldn't have. But they just sat. They just sat every time they got the ball, just booted it out. They did nothing with the ball when they had it. They had no interest in playing the ball when they had it. And they just allowed us to basically pass ourselves into oblivion. And it's like we just shit the bed when we got into the box. Absolutely shit the bed. No idea what to do with it. And we had a couple of opportunities. I don't want to take away from that, but I just feel that we've somehow now taken this element of control too far, and we've lost any sentiment of creativity, of excitement, of dynamism in our approach to play. And you talked about setting ourselves up differently against Man United. The way that we set up here was basically the same. We're at home against 15th place Everton, who are awful. Sean Dyche has coached this team to be an absolutely ugly side. And we couldn't do anything about it. And it was mental. Anyway, my rant kind of over to a point. But, you know, it's that element of control. It's that element of being coached to a point where we can't make decisions. And we effectively, I think my bottom line is, we had no plan B.
I feel like we didn't have the freedom of expression in our play yesterday. It was predictable, boring. Obviously, when we did create chances, it wasn't boring, but the build-up play was frustrating, if that makes sense. So, we're going to go to the left, cross to Martinelli, doesn't work. I think I've said this before, right? I feel like I'm repeating myself in a previous pod. Cross to Martinelli. We're going to go back across into Mourinho, into Rice, cross to Ødegaard, over to Saka. There's four men around Saka. What are we going to do here? He's going to try and no, he can't take them on. Back to Ødegaard, back the other side, back the other side, back the other side. Because as you said, Everton weren't interested in doing anything. There was no press. If the ball was with our back four, that was nothing they were doing. It wasn't like Calvert-Lewin. Yeah.
Calvert-Lewin.
It wasn't pressing like Ødegaard or Havertz does. He's just like, yeah, come on in. Like we couldn't. There was no opportunity to find the holes. You know, get the ball at the back, force them to come to us, get the ball back to David Raya, go over the top, find a long one where we've broken through, find a gap within the triangle as they press. Like there was nothing because they just put pretty much 10 men behind the ball the whole game. And when teams do that, the one that sticks in my mind is always that game Newcastle, that Newcastle draw from a couple of seasons ago where we were there and it was just so frustrating. We needed the win. It just pees me off when teams come to play like that, but I understand why they want to get a point, and that's going to probably, is the best way to leave the Emirates with some points when you're that kind of caliber of team. So as much as it's frustrating me, like Everton don't care. They've done what they needed to do. My frustration more is that we don't seem to have a key to unlock. It doesn't feel like we have that expression to play when teams are playing like that. It's not like we're coached to do something different, or it doesn't come across that way anyway. Even with set pieces, right? We were going set piece again, ole, just when we got the set pieces yesterday, but even the set pieces weren't working. It's just a point when, the kind of defensive team they are, Everton are best equipped to deal with set pieces. Goals from open play are what cause them problems. And Pickford had not every single one, but he had a lot of those crosses handled.
I would say a lot of our set pieces can easily be contained by a good ball coming keeper. Let's be honest. Like any keeper that commands their box, it has the ability to go and grab it. Bearing in mind that a goalkeeper can use their hands, right? So they have an advantage over the other players. And most other keepers just haven't done that against us. And you're right, every single time it was on the money, but Pickford was grabbing them.
Yeah, so I mean, are we coached too far? I don't think we're coached too far. I don't think, however, there's the one thing with Arsenal was there was a lot of creative freedom. We had some towards the end. We had some really bad squads with Arsene Wenger, like just the caliber of player. Some of the buys didn't make sense. The Aubameyang and Lacazette, right? When you could have spent some of that money on a better winger. It's because we knew Alexis was going, and we could have replaced Alexis, or we could have, Ozil was.
Me, man, you just mentioned. Imagine having Alexis nowadays in this.
I know.
Carry on. Sorry,
but no. The point was that okay, if you take away the Arsenal's last few squads, but even in the mid 2010 period when Alexis came at the beginning. And Ozil was there, and we had Ramsey, Giroud. We weren't obviously the defense, and those years were the years when we obviously didn't. The defense wasn't always perfect, and we never ever bought that holding midfielder. Ironically, we have that now, and it's like Mikel saw problems from previous errors, and went, "I'm going to fix those." But it's like we haven't. It's like we've gone the opposite, if that makes sense. And there's no creative freedom. I just don't feel like there's expression. The only person that can express themselves or is trusted to express themselves is the captain. And you're continuously relying on him to unlock the door, to release Saka, to do Saka's magic. Because he's going to have 3 players on him. So you've got one player. And I don't even think I'm being irrational here, because look at when he was out of the squad for 3, 4, 5 games, however many games it was. We were dire, really, in comparison of our standards. So there's no creative expression. I don't also see the caliber of player in the squad. Like, it's great to have a Mesut Ozil in the squad, but we also had Sanchez as well, and we had Giroud was really good with interplay. Cazorla, what I do for a player like Santi Cazorla right now. Just creativity isn't through just one player, and for me it just feels like it's all coming through Ødegaard. Don't get me wrong, Saka has got loads of creativity, but he can't do anything with 4 men on him. Martinelli on the other side. I'm sorry. I thought he was going to be such a good player, and unfortunately,
we're going to get on to him, Jace.
But with no creativity. We're lacking it. We needed another creative player.
There was someone I read this online, and maybe I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I'd said that is this the type of game that rather than having a 6 and an 8, that we play 2 10s, and that you just play Rice as a single pivot, and you maybe have Ethan and Ødegaard, and that's the type of game that called for that type of double creative spark, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if Everton going to sit back like they are, there's no threat, so you can play the single pivot.
I mean, I agree with you, but we took off Rice and Ødegaard, I think, together, right, in the 70th minute or somewhere close to that.
Yeah, it was quite early.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like, but like it felt weird. I don't know if it's tactical. I don't know if it's muscular. I don't know if it's resting. I don't know what it is, but it felt odd that we're making those subs. Those 2 players that I just don't feel you can take off in a game where we need to we need a victory. There's also an element here that he obviously just doesn't like Sterling. He's not playing Sterling at all. And that feels like an absolute... We're all lauding the fact that we're paying 40k for him because most of his wages are being paid by Chelsea. Chelsea are probably laughing all the way to the bank at this moment in time because they don't need him.
I think we're keeping, to use your phrase, whatever, powder dry. We didn't get the target we wanted. We knew we had to let Reece go, and Sterling was seen as a like-for-like replacement with the benefit that he might be something better than what Reece has, and it came down to seeing how he performed in training. And it turns out that he is a like-for-like for Reece. That's what he is.
I mean, I'm not even sure I would even say that. I'd actually say maybe I might prefer Reece. Let's leave that conversation for another time.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, I want to talk about, because there's a bit on the next bit. So I flashed up a title card that says, "Could we have one?" Because me and you in the green room were slightly discussing this beforehand, and it's not like I know that my kind of rant alluded to the fact that we were devoid of anything. This is a game where we had 76% possession. We had 5 shots on target. We had 13 shots. It's not like we didn't have big chances. Did we have opportunities to win this game, Jose?
Yeah, we did. Either Pickford saved them or we just didn't take our chances. I think Saka had a really good effort in the second half. Pickford got down low to his post. Ødegaard's had a couple of chances in the first half. I think the first one was wide of the mark, but was happy to see him shoot in from the edge of the area because he hasn't done that enough. The second chance, however, should be putting away, in my opinion.
He put it the only place that really was going to save it.
Straight down the middle, really, wasn't it? It wasn't anywhere in a far-reaching corner. So,
yeah.
Did Hayden? No, Jesus. No, I don't know why I'm saying Jesus.
Did Jesus? No, of course he didn't.
No. Martinelli had a few chances as well, right? There were chances, and we didn't take them. And it's sometimes that, we've talked about this word before, being clinical when the moment presents itself. And that wasn't there.
So there was the Partey penalty incident is another one that maybe was an opportunity that could have happened. What do you think?
Pen. And I'm trying not to be biased about this. When I was making notes, I was like, okay, there was the penalty decision in the ground. We didn't see a replay, and it was so far away for us because we were the other seats, the other side. And so I was like, okay, I'll rewatch it and see. And does the defender win the ball? In theory, the defender scoops the ball. I agree with that. But before he scoops the ball, he fouls Partey. Because Partey's running through. He basically puts his body in the way of Partey, knocks Partey flying, and because Partey's gone flying, then he just hooks the ball with his foot. It's like, well, you've committed the foul, then taken the ball. You've not taken the ball, and then you're not committed the foul. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, also, yeah, either way, it's a pen. I don't see how that's not a pen.
I said it to you, in that foul in any other position on the field, and it's given as a free kick. It's just because of the threshold of where it is. And that I think there was a foul by Ruben Diaz and Højlund in the Manchester derby today that was quite similar. And I'm very much like he doesn't. He might get the ball, but he takes out the man first. It's like that's like pushing the player out the way and then carrying on while like you've got the ball. Yeah, you've had to do something to the player to get to it. It's not a clean challenge.
If I body check you and then I go, "Oh, Greg's falling over," now
the fact that you're thinking you could body check me, Jace, is laughable. Laughable.
Yeah, to be fair, actually, in my experience, it has been the other way around. But yeah, same thing. You know what I mean?
I know. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have won. Maybe we did have chances. I don't think there is clear cut, but like I say, I think in our last few games, you could look at the statistics and on paper, you would look at these and kind of go, at some point the tide is going to turn. At some point those results will come. At some point our luck will start and other teams' luck may run out, and that is just the nature of the beast. You just got to hope that happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
we'll see. Right, I want to have some difficult conversation. I think there are a lot of players out there yesterday that need their name called out, that need a bit of a shake, need a bit of a talking down to. They need a bit of harsh dosage of reality. There are at least 3, and at least on my docket. But I'm going to pass the baton over to you in the immediacy. Which one of these players you want to call out and have that difficult conversation with, Jace?
You asked me. I really don't know. There's a few. For once, I'm going to talk about Havertz because it's not just the game against Everton. I felt Fulham as well. He's been absent. Sometimes, if you don't get him the service, he's kind of missing from the game, at least when he's in the number 9 position. If he's in the 8, then that's the 6/8 on the left. It's a different conversation. But when he is up front and he doesn't get the service, he's missing. I don't actually know if that's a criticism of Havertz or whether that's a criticism of the coaching staff to not recognise how the game's going and make changes sooner. But if I'm on that pitch and I'm not having an impact, I come and get the ball. I just do. Like on a Monday Night Football, when I used to be able to play, if I wasn't like, all the guys always just tell me, get up front. And I wasn't getting the service I want because I wasn't a tall player. I wasn't able to hold the ball up. And I was just like, so I just kept dropping deep like Alexis used to do. You see Jesus did it as well yesterday. But I just try and get involved in the game because I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm not adding any value. And I don't see that with Havertz. Obviously, this comes back to the conversation that you just had. Are we coached to be a certain way? In other words, he has to play that way. And if he doesn't play that way, maybe he gets hooked and Jesus comes on. I don't know. But he was just having no impact on the game, I didn't think. At least, I don't know. What was your opinion on Havertz? Because I thought he was invisible half the time.
No, I'm with you. And like a lot of players who play as the 9, you look at Haaland particularly, when he's not getting the service and not too involved in the game, he will drop deeper to bring himself into play to at least feel like he's part of the action. We were in the ground yesterday, so when Jesus did it and came into the game, there was a guy either next to me or somewhere around me going, "What are you doing? Play off the defender, play the last man, play on the line. You're a striker. That's where you're supposed to be." But we don't. Was it? It might have been you. Yeah, but we don't. We're not that team. We don't play football like that. We haven't played football like that for absolutely ages. I do feel that like a lot of the call outs, like even you said, to get an Isak, to get a Sesko, to get a Vlahovic. We don't play with that type of striker. We don't play that type of way. I think we'd have to be set up somewhat differently in order to take advantage of a player that can do the things that those players can do. Bukayo, I'm not going to say he stunk the joint up, but he wasn't good. he was pretty absent, pretty invisible. He wasn't necessarily doing it. I think if I'm gonna lay into someone again, I think it has to be Martinelli, because for me, where is he developing? When is he developing? Because I think you said at the top of the pod, you were like, he's not turned into the player that we all hoped and thought he could be. I've got a friend who about 4 years ago laughed when he said that Luis Diaz was a better player than Martinelli, because I felt Martinelli's trajectory was on the up. It was going in a really good way. We had one or half a season where he was absolutely electric. His goal and assist output was incredible. And it's just stopped. It's just massively tapered off. The guy only sees grass, looks at his feet. Exactly. And it is, we talked about the criminality of him not looking across that line. I don't know if he was still looking at grass when he didn't even have the ball at his bloody feet, because he could have easily looked across that line and saw where he was offside and could have put himself in a position where he was onside against Fulham. And this is just another game where he just commits himself to the line, gets down the byline, gets caught in either in his own feet or gets caught in traffic. He just runs into players. He's not finishing. He's not passing. He's not assisting. For me, like I say, he's got to the point now where he doesn't seem to be learning from the mistakes he's making. He doesn't seem to be developing as a player to do different things. You've seen other trajectories and growth of other players that take on board feedback and have utilized that to become better players. I wonder if the time is coming, and we know, and a lot of people talked about Saka backups. We know that we're trying to solve our left-hand side dynamic. We have been trying to solve it since Xhaka left. We are trying now with a variety of Calafioris and Marinos that either are just not fit and never playing together at the same time. That maybe some of that might be some of the solution, because Martinelli on his own might not just be the sole problem, but I just think that him and Trossard are both having some similar problems that are only solved in reality by a better left winger.
So you're saying we need 2 wingers and a striker, because we know we needed a striker. We kept saying we needed a Saka backup, and Sterling came in.
A Saka backup for me is like the last in the queue, in my opinion. Saka just plays. He's never not going to play. He's rarely injured. For me, a Saka backup, it just has to be someone that just knows they're never going to play. Look at Sterling, never plays.
What happens if Saka gets injured like Ødegaard did?
He just doesn't.
What if he gets injured? What do we do? I'm asking you.
I can't play devil's advocate. We'd have to play. But like I say, whoever plays as his backup just has to be known that he's not going to play. You're never going to play unless that boy is injured. Unless we're playing like Scunthorpe in the cup, then you might get a game. But it's not happening. So for me, it's left wing, striker, then a right back. And even then, I don't think the right wing problem is one that we need to solve immediately. I think we've sorted out the defense. I think the defense, but it's funny. We discussed a lot during the summer about stockpiling defenders. Yet here we are playing Partey at right back. What are we doing? I don't get it.
I wouldn't have taken. We take off Lewis Skelly, didn't we?
Yeah, and we took off Lewis Skelly. Timber went left back, then Partey went right back. I don't know what the obsession. And I said to you in the ground, Partey this season has been almost probably our best player. He's definitely up there. He has a pass within him, and he is able to cut open. There was a lofted ball over the top to Saka. He tried it a couple of times. I think he's done it a couple of times this season. He is one of the keys that you've talked about, right? He is one of our ability players that can break the lines. Can't do it from right back.
I don't know what Lewis Skelly did to get subbed. I mean, obviously he's subbed in both games he's played, right? The last 2 games. He's been played about 60 minutes. But he's not been the problem, especially in that game. It wasn't like there was a big threat.
We didn't need a defender.
I didn't understand why we made that. Oh, was he booked? Did he get booking?
Even then, I'm not sure. Like, how risky is him being on a yellow card for 30 minutes against that Everton side? It in a lot.
Yeah. So go on. Anyone else?
Just seems odd. Well, there is one other. And we have talked about this person briefly. And I think maybe me and you are thinking along the same lines here. Marino was a big summer signing. He came. with a lot of obviously gusto and a lot of kind of emphasis on the fact that he'd won the Euros against England. He was a tall, dynamic, strong, physical presence. He's a dual machine. And I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm looking for either, to be honest. I'm not sure, but he hasn't done anything that would oh my God, he's a player. He can play the ball. He offers himself. He can take the pass. He can play the pass. Like, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm not seeing whatever it is that I'm supposed to be looking for. He's certainly not Xhaka, put it that way. And that was the player that he ultimately is supposed to be the understudy or maybe replacement to longer term that we still not managed to kind of solve. I just don't know I don't know what kind of player he is. Maybe he's not had enough games yet. And that's maybe the bit where I'm like, when we talked about Kai Havertz before and we sent off our apology letters, and that took a long time to get to that place where we felt that maybe we're being too harsh on him. And maybe he hasn't had a good string of games yet. I just don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think the jury's still out. If you think about how long it took Havertz to settle in, because he was being tried in different positions as well, Havertz, right? Was he staying, was he playing in the old Xhaka role? Was he playing in the up front? And then you think about Marino. How many proper full games has he played? Because he got injured for the first month and a half of the season, maybe 2 months of the season. He was out for a while. So I think if you take into consideration he's missed a chunk of the season and now he's getting more game time, he's good. I think the jury is still out. I do agree with you. I find it hard at this moment in time to understand who is he as a player, what's his identity, what's his style of play, what does he bring to us? It's not clear. I think in my head, I had this kind of vision of a Rodri-esque player, but I've never really watched him enough to be able to say, oh, it's our version of Rodri. And obviously he doesn't really play in the deep line pivot role. So he's probably not Rodri. I'm just because he's Spanish and he look kind of similar with the dark hair, but I don't know enough about Marino right now to really say it's worked or not worked. Jury's out, prepared to give him time, but at the same time also we can't have it's frustrating because are you now in a place as a fan where you're like, because like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like it's not acceptable. Like you're wanting and expecting more now, which means that we don't have the time for bringing in the people along the journey with us. You've got to already be in sync and just be able to go like that. There's just no time for people who are trying to get up to speed because we're in it and every point matters. We've drawn 6 games this year, won 8, lost 2, drawn 6. I think it is. Is that right?
But we're on I think I saw a tweet that basically said our regression under the same amount of games. Like I think in our first season, like 38, then it was 34, and now it's 30. And are we going backwards?
Well, yeah. It's 30 points right now, and I feel like we should be on. We've drawn 6 games, so that's 12 points that we've left on the table. Let alone,
there's silly games there. Right? The City one should have really had. The Liverpool one probably should have had. What was it? Brighton? Is that a draw?
Yeah, that was annoying.
I think Brighton's draw should have had that one. I look at 12 points on the table, and I look at maybe 6 we should have got, and then you put those 6 on the table, and we're joint with Liverpool. They got a game in hand. There are still fine margins to be had. There's still a long old season to go. It's just not, no one else is riding luck, is doing the things that they should be doing. We're just getting it all at the wrong time.
Yeah. And Chelsea, I think, are winning currently as well as we speak.
They are 2-1 up, and it's almost full time. So let's go to that then, because the last point I want to talk about was around the grounds, because I have a bit of another rant, but not directed at Arsenal this time. And this time I want to kind of go, you know, we've sat here, me and you, right, for 2 seasons now, Jace, doing this pod. And as Arsenal fans for many, many years, for the last 3 years in particular, we've waited for City to become normal, to be normal. We're now in a state where they've won 1 in the last 11. They've lost to Man United at home. And they're giving the luckiest, flukiest, most boring Liverpool side the opportunity of a lifetime that we are currently squandering. I'm not denying that, but you've got this Liverpool side now running away with it, who are potentially gonna win the league with this side. And what annoys me more than anything is the fact that City are just throwing it away. They couldn't give us an inch last season. You've got players saving goals from Son that would go in. I'd bet my mortgage on Son scoring that goal 100 times out of 101 times, and that 101 time was the one that it didn't work out. And I'm just frustrated here that we're giving this team riding the Liverpool aren't good. They're not looking very good. They're not playing very well. They're scraping victories, and it's just frustrating and annoying to me that we're allowing this. And I hope I'm going to be here in May calling them the biggest bottle jobs of all time, because if they throw this away, and I fucking hope they do, if they do, I'm gonna be here. Get me the ticket, get me the position on the bus in the parade to laugh at them when it happens, because I cannot wait.
You're gonna rent out a bus and drive around Liverpool? Is that what you're saying?
I might just drive up to my mate's house, Taylor, who supports Liverpool, just for that, but maybe Liverpool. Let's see. It's just annoying, you know what I mean? Like, why is it the City have waited all this time to be normal to now do it? It's just incredibly frustrating.
Well, but I've got the table in front of me, right? We're still only 3 points in front of City, and they've lost 5 games. That's our own fault. That's not, I mean, obviously them losing is funny, but it's our own fault. We should not be only 3 points ahead of City. If the City win their next game, we lose it. We're level on points. They've lost 5. It's those six games we've drawn. At the moment, we are the bottlers. That is it. That is it. We are bottling it.
When you put it like that, because it is interesting, funny. You know, it's not funny. Maybe it is. I don't know. But like we've waited and waited and waited. We're like, how bad is City? And you're right. When you look at the table and they're 3 points behind us, and one victory and 1 loss swaps us around, you're like, how has this happened? In many years before, we've already seen this, where City could lose a game or lose a couple, and yet they're still like 10 points clear, and yet they've lost 5, and they're still like just behind us. It's mental.
Yeah. So
like you say, Jace, anyone playing but
buses.
ourselves, right? Get 2. Where are we going? Liverpool and
London. Because then you have Chelsea like fluke in the Premier League or something stupid like that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't bear thinking about at this point in time, and neither do I want to. So on that note, I guess we'll wrap it up. Our next game is Palace in the Cup.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you, Jace. Does that become... I've had a lot of Man United fans come at me going, we're a more successful team than you over the last season. We've won a trophy. Does that League Cup become more important for us now in that respect, or do you not care?
Could not give a... I don't.
I'm with you. I don't care either.
Don't. Play Wanyeri, play Sterling, play Lewis Skelly, play Kivior, play Neto.
Well, I need some of those players in our actual game against Palace in the weekend, Jay. So maybe you can.
Well, maybe, but just play Jesus. Play one of Trossard or Martinelli. I'd say Martinelli, because Trossard probably needs to start. Roll out Jorginho at the start. Bring someone else from the reserves or the youth team in. Or the under 21. Sorry. I want every single person ready to go at Palace, and just when I say Palace, at Palace away in the league on Saturday, even though we play them in the cup. I just don't care. Like, for me, it's the league. I really want the Champions League. I know a lot of people are like, we got to win the league, but I personally, I think I've said it for a few years. I want the Champions League because it's the trophy I've never seen us win. So that's what I still want. But the pragmatic person is also like, if you're going to go for anything in domestically, it's the league. A league or bust. That's what we're here for. Last however many years, it's been like 4 FA Cups in the last 10 years. It's like, great. But now I want the Premier
big
League
one. The big
and
one.
the Champions League. Yeah.
Okay. So
sorry. And just, that was a long-winded answer. Also, I don't really give a shit about Man United either. So, we're the most successful team. Good for you. Yeah, chuck another £2 million on that bonfire you've got burning out there for revenue you just made from winning the Carabao Cup. Like, who cares? I don't.
There's no sour grapes there, right, Jace? I guess.
No, if our Man United fans want to come round with their bus holding up their little Carabao Cup trophy outside my house, feel free.
There's going to be a lot of bus tours we're paying for at the moment, Jason. I'm not too sure we could afford it.
Well, Man United pay for their own bus tour, can't they?
All right, fine. All right.
Yeah.
Right. A pleasure. Maybe some copium, maybe some hope, maybe some realism. Who knows what that podcast was? But it sure was a little bit fiery, which is good. We'll be back again for one of the Palace games, depending on which one we either care or want to kind of come back and podcast about. Jace, if we've got the audience, they're still here. What do we want them to do?
Well, if you're listening on a podcast provider of choice, then give us a subscribe so the episode is in your podcast inbox virtually as soon as it's published. And give us a like. Sorry, no, that's YouTube. My bad. Give us a rating. 5 stars, please, because Asgraf just gets really sad and he cries. And yeah, YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, and all of the below.
Yeah, I'm actually just checking the Spotify to make sure we've still got our fresh 5-star, which I think we do. So any more 5s, please do give us a hand. Please do help bump us up those subscribers on YouTube. Really going to continue now. We're back in the game and we're obviously on the downturn. So good to see some content that's also looking at the shit as well as the good. Let's see what our game against Palace brings. Other than that, have an enjoyable rest of your day and thank you for tuning in.
Cheers, guys.
Come on, you